Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India and Australia hold the 14th Foreign Minister level framework dialogue. They align their priorities in the Indian Ocean and beyond. Almost all leaders to participate in the G20 Virtual Summit hosted by India tomorrow. The focus will be on climate change and green energy. Israel releases visuals of its forces pushing further into the Gaza Strip. Talks on to release hostages held by the terrorist group Hamas. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and the Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong held the 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue in New Delhi on Tuesday. Under this framework, the two sides held discussions on close collaboration in trilateral, quadrilateral and multilateral formats. They also exchanged perspectives on the Indo-Pacific and West Asia.
It isn't just the meetings. I think we've seen how much the comfort level in our relationship has gone up, bilaterally, trilaterally with other countries, quadrilaterally on an occasion. What today brings us closer together is actually a shared vision of an open, free, inclusive, prosperous and rules-based Indo-Pacific.
The Australian Foreign Minister highlighted the areas of common interest that the two countries share.
We share our history, we both value our democratic traditions, we both love our sporting traditions, but I think even more importantly, we understand how important we are to each other's future. And that is a point about the bilateral relationship, and it's a point about us working together in the region.
Later, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Australian counterpart, the Foreign Minister Penny Wong, addressed a joint press conference on the 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue in New Delhi. Both countries expressed their shared commitment for an open, inclusive, stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific.
Part of the 2+2 and as again part of our own dialogue today, we had an extensive discussion on security issues. We shared growing convergences with Australia, and at the heart of it is really a shared commitment to a free, open, inclusive, prosperous and rules-based Indo-Pacific region based on UNCLOS as the constitution of the seas.
The Australian Foreign Minister highlighted the areas of cooperation between the two countries.
This has been a milestone year in our partnership, and it's critical for the Met region. We are, as Dr. Jaishankar said, we are comprehensive strategic partners. We're also Quad partners. We share traditions. We also share an interest in the sort of region we live in, an Indo-Pacific that is peaceful, stable and prosperous, in which sovereignty is respected, and where all countries can benefit from a strategic equilibrium.
Earlier, the Australian Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles and the Foreign Minister Penny Wong met India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval in New Delhi. The two sides discussed a range of issues, including global and regional developments, as well as bilateral security and defense cooperation. They emphasized on the need to assist countries in the Indo-Pacific, ASEAN, Africa, the Global South and the Pacific Islands to take forward their development trajectories in line with their priorities in a sustainable manner. A virtual G20 Leaders Summit chaired by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be held tomorrow. The summit was announced by the Indian Prime Minister during the closing session of the New Delhi G20 Summit on the 10th of September 2023.
Leaders Summit will be held tomorrow from 5:30 p.m. onwards under the chairmanship of the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. All of you are aware that the 18th G20 Leaders Summit was held in New Delhi successfully on 9th and 10th September 2023. It saw the unanimous adoption of the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration.
Well, India has already hosted two Voice of the Global South summits, and the first Voice of Global South summit was held in January of 2023 virtually, and the second Voice of the Global South summit was held virtually on November 17.
This virtual summit will be the second time the Prime Minister will be hosting the leaders of the G20 within a span of just over 2.5 months. This is something very rare and rather exceptional. In addition to all this, as you are all aware, the Prime Minister has hosted two sessions of the Voice of Global Summit this year, which was coordinated by the Foreign Secretary. So actually, India has held 4 such meetings in a single year with the participation of over 150 world leaders, which clearly demonstrates the convening power of India and the leadership of the Prime Minister at the global level.
Our correspondent Amritpal Singh is standing by. He's joining us live from the newsroom with more on this story. Well, Amrit, India holds the G20 presidency until the end of this month, the 30th of November. And so is this meeting, in a sense, a status check on the outcomes of the September summit?
That's right. Not only status check, of course a status check, but also Mark taking stock of the progress. This is the first time ever that the country has held, two leaders summit. One in the physical format, of course, is always held by the chair, but India introduced this idea because India holds the presidency till the 30th of this month. And today when the Sherpa was addressing us, he said that if you look at the leaders, the New Delhi Declaration, a total of 205 areas were covered, in which outcomes included where progress has to be made. So there will be a certain check on the progress made since the 9th and 10th of September when the Leaders Summit happened. Also, since September 10th, the world's changed a lot. The world changed on October 7th as well. So they will, look at the new and emerging challenges confronting the world as India still holds the presidency, Mark. So I think that will be the focus of tomorrow's virtual conference.
And if we look at the big picture then, Amrit, what level of continuity is seen in the G20 agenda going forward into the Brazilian presidency?
There is always great continuity. That is why a troika is formed. There is a troika of India, Brazil, and South Africa, because South Africa takes over from Brazil next year. So, there is, the idea is to hold a certain amount of continuity, though the incoming chair does shape the agenda and has its own priorities. But here, because it is a global South country, and given the accent of India on the global South's concerns and aspirations being an integral part of the New Delhi Declaration or shaping the narrative of the G20, I think Brazil would want to tread down that path. So there will be a lot of convergences. Of course, Brazil is free to bring in what it considers priorities, which we would know once it unveils and takes over its presidency from India in the formal sense. So, but broadly speaking, there are a lot of convergences, and I think the development agenda, the agenda on the sustainable development goals, on climate change, on the concerns and aspirations of the global South, the development financing would continue Brazil will take over from where New Delhi left.
We leave it there. Thank you very much. Amritpal Singh joining us with an update on the virtual summit of the G20. Moving on then, the Israeli Defense Forces, they've said that their aircraft identified and struck 3 armed terror squads in the area of the border with Lebanon. Jets also struck a number of Hezbollah targets, including terror infrastructure and command and control sites. A short while ago, in fact, the terrorists had fired mortar shells at an IDF post in northern Israel. No injuries were reported, but the IDF artillery is currently striking the source of that fire. And the US President Joe Biden believes a deal to secure the release of some hostages held by Hamas is close at hand. The national security spokesperson of the Biden administration, John Kirby, said the administration believes this deal is closer to fruition.
I know this is of great interest to all of you. I just want to let you know we're still working this hour by hour. I do not have an update for you on the hostage deal that we're trying to negotiate. But as you heard the Deputy National Security Advisor say yesterday, we believe we're closer than we've ever been. So we're hopeful. But there's still work to be done, and nothing is done until it's all done. So we're going to keep working on this.
To mark the 15th anniversary of the Mumbai terror attacks, Israel has listed Lashkar-e-Taiba as a terrorist organization. This has happened despite no request coming from the government of India. Israel has formally completed all necessary procedures and described Lashkar-e-Taiba as a deadly terror organization responsible for the murder of hundreds of Indian civilians as well as others. South Africa will host a virtual summit of the BRICS group of countries. This is to discuss the Israel-Hamas conflict. Tuesday's extraordinary joint meeting on the Middle East situation in Gaza will be hosted by the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in the hope of drawing up a common response to the more than 6-week-old conflict. All 5 BRICS heads of state, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, will join the virtual summit. Besides, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will also attend. Now, leaders from Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates will attend the meeting. All these countries are due to join the BRICS group in January next year. A joint statement with particular reference to Gaza is expected following the summit. On a visit to the African nation of Tanzania, the Indian Minister of State for External Affairs, V. Muralidharan, paid tribute to the Indian soldiers at the Commonwealth War Memorial in the capital Dar es Salaam. And taking to the social media platform X, the minister said that their sacrifice remains eternal in memory. Let's take a look at other stories making the news around the world. Elon Musk's social media platform X has sued the company Media Matters that accused X of allowing anti-Semitic posts next to advertising. X's lawsuit alleges that Media Matters manipulated data in an attempt to destroy the platform. Firms including Apple, Disney, IBM, and Comcast have paused advertisements on X since the watchdog released its analysis. The world's highest vertical marathon took place at China's tallest building, Shanghai Tower. Over 2,000 participants from around the world registered to participate in this event. They set off one by one from the base of the skyscraper, ascending more than 3,000 steps to an impressive height of 552 meters. Still to come on DD India Live. The White House says that Presidents Biden and Xi Jinping had agreed to meet once again. And Russia says that coexistence is not possible with Ukraine's current regime. Also, young talent looks to the future of movie making at IFFI.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
The White House has said that the U.S. President Joe Biden and the Chinese President Xi Jinping have agreed to meet once again, but they did not specify a date. The two leaders met in San Francisco last week on the sidelines of the APEC summit, and they agreed to re-establish military-to-military communications.
They agreed that they would meet again, but there was no date put on the calendar. What's really important now is that the military-to-military comms will begin to start, and even down to the theater commander level, and maybe even lower than that. So that's the immediate channels of communication that we're looking at getting back open.
3 people were killed and 8 wounded in Russian missile attacks and shelling in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk and Kharkiv regions. Ukrainian officials said the S-300 missiles hit a hospital in Donetsk and a coal mine. Russian Defense Minister Shoigu said that Ukraine had failed to carry out a landing operation in the Kherson region. The Russians said that their forces had stopped Ukraine attempts to gain a foothold on the eastern bank of the river Dnipro and on the islands at the mouth of the river in southern Ukraine. Kherson is one of 4 Ukrainian regions Russia has annexed or claims to have annexed. Moldova's President Maia Sandu has arrived in Kiev on Tuesday. Sandu and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky honored the memory of people who had died during the Revolution of Dignity 10 years ago at the memorial site near the Maidan Square in central Kiev. A senior Russian Foreign Ministry diplomat said that Russia cannot coexist with the current Ukrainian regime and will resist the might of NATO's military alliance for as long as Moscow needs to achieve its aims. Amid soaring tensions between the Balkan neighbors, NATO's Secretary General on Tuesday announced that the alliance was determined to continue its peacekeeping mission in Kosovo and to protect Serbs and Albanians impartially. While speaking in Belgrade, Stoltenberg also welcomed Serbia's willingness to cooperate in the prosecution of those responsible for the outbreaks of violence in northern Kosovo in May and in September.
Decades, KFOR has ensured a safe and secure environment in Kosovo for all communities. We will continue to do so impartially and in line with our UN mandate. In May, our KFOR troops were attacked. 93 of them were wounded. Some suffered life-changing injuries. In September, we saw another outbreak of serious violence in Kosovo. This is unacceptable. The facts must be established. The perpetrators must face justice. Therefore, I welcome that Serbia is prepared to cooperate in these efforts, as we also discussed during our meeting.
Spain's new cabinet swore in their new allegiances to King Felipe on Tuesday. Most senior ministers were retained in their last positions. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez won a vote in Parliament to clinch another term after months of negotiations. Sanchez retained Nadia Calvino as the economy minister. He added 9 new faces to the 22-member cabinet, and Sanchez said that he would be more adept at negotiating with parliamentary allies to pass key legislations. Australia's climate change and energy minister said on Tuesday that Canberra would argue for stronger mitigation outcomes at COP28 climate summit in Dubai next week. Speaking at the Lowy Institute of International Policy in Sydney, Chris Bowen said that he wanted stronger practical outcomes and not just maintaining the status quo in the upcoming COP28 summit.
In Dubai, we will again be arguing for a strong position and stronger mitigation outcomes. We want this COP to be about stronger practical outcomes, not just maintaining the status quo. We'll also be supporting a tripling of global renewable capacity and a doubling of global energy efficiency efforts.
And back home on the second day of the 54th edition of IFFI, India's Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Anurag Singh Takur, launched a 48-hour Film Challenge. This is part of the third edition of the 75 Creative Minds for Tomorrow. And the Creative Minds of Tomorrow is a platform for young artists to transform themselves as leading filmmakers and artists of tomorrow. At the launch event, Minister Takur highlighted the success of the program and spoke about its rigorous selection process.
In the last 2 years, we had close to 150 such young creative minds who have joined the programs. With this year's edition, the total tally stands at 225. So you are already a strong force of creative minds of tomorrow. 225 people already working in the system, learning and growing. We never wanted this to be, the names proposed by anyone and they could join. We wanted always this to be a rigorous process, to be, it should go through, one of the finest names, the jury members. And that is how this year also we had more than 600 applications, and we have the best 75 sitting in front of us who are going to make all of us proud.
The 54th IFFI opened with the British film Catching Dust. It was directed by Stuart Gat. The film boasts of a stellar cast including Erin Moriarty, Jai Courtney, Dina Shihabi, Ryan Kaur, Jose Altit, Gary Fanin and Alwyn Furah. Well, the director, Stuart Gat, is an award-winning British filmmaker of mixed Asian heritage whose stories are often influenced by topical social themes. DD India correspondent Sharma Mishra spoke to the director.
The 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India has already kick-started, and we did see the opening film on day one was Catching Dust. First of all, what was the idea behind the movie? And if you're talking about the opening film being here at IFFI, how does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel wonderful. We're very proud to be here. It's an honor. The reception has been incredible. The scope of the festival, the warmth of it, and just to have your film play it at a festival like this is really incredible. And to be the opening film is just the icing on the cake.
India is also coming ahead in that particular field, particular direction, where lots of rebates are being given, lots of incentives are being announced. What do you see these measures will be, beneficial in the future?
The rebates and the tax incentives are a huge part of producing a film these days, and jurisdictions need to be competitive in that regard. And I think that the recent announcements, with the improvement in the Indian incentive, is going to be, really, really attractive to international co-productions to come.
How would you describe the whole experience?
It's been really incredible. It's difficult to really fathom how big the festival is compared to other festivals. A lot of festivals take place in a vacuum. You could be in a city and have no idea there's a film festival taking place, but this one's different in that sense. You feel it everywhere you go. It's oozing out of every pore of the city.
What's the movie about, and what was the idea behind making it?
Yeah, so Catching Dust is a Texas noir set in West Texas, and it follows a couple who are hiding out in the desert from their criminal past when another couple gets stuck with them. And the story really develops in these two couples being stuck together and leads to someone's untimely murder. So it's a thriller.
So this was the producers and the director of the opening film at the International Film Festival of India, Catching Dust, and we'd like to understand more from them as well, and the Indian filmmakers or the emerging filmmakers would also like to understand more of the mantras and tips that they have. With camera person Sanjeev Sharma, this is Sharma Mishra for DD India, Goa.
Last year, India and France signed an agreement on the blue economy ranging from maritime trade, the naval industry, fisheries, to maritime technology and ocean observation. DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja spoke to Professor Manel Zakaria, who is an international technical expert on the blue economy from France. Let's listen.
Thank you for joining us. There was a pact signed last year between India and France on furthering cooperation in the blue economy. Tell us more about that.
So indeed, the blue economy and all ocean science and technology issues was first introduced in the Indo-French summit in 21. And And following this interest from scientists from both countries, there have been a roadmap signed by Honorable Prime Minister of India and Honorable President of France last year, stating the importance of blue economy and ocean technologies for both countries. Both of us have very long coastlines, and so they decided to build up cooperation in many areas. So it's very wide. It's ranging from fisheries to fish deconstruction, depollution, and passing by deep ocean technologies, oceanography, ocean models, and climate change.
How do you see India playing a bigger role when it comes to exporting fish and frozen shrimp?
Not only exporting, but it's playing a bigger role in a region, the Indo-Pacific region. I just give you one example, which is called the Bay of Bengal program, where India is sitting there with, as far as I remember, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and Myanmar is associated, because fish do not know where the borders are. They travel their own way, and they don't care about politics, they don't care about wars, they are always there. And this global approach that was initiated by India, the headquarters of the Bay of Bengal program is in Chennai. I think it's showed the importance of India in the region.
The Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry concluded the XR Open Source Fellowship Program for Indian developers in New Delhi, and present at that event was Professor Ajay Sood. He's the Principal Scientific Advisor at the Government of India. Spoke exclusively to DD India correspondent Siddharth Bardwaj on artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence, as you rightly said, is a great tool, great invention. But of course, we have to be also careful of the biases which can be built in the data which is used by AI. So AI is built on the existing knowledge. So it creates further learning from that using various large language models, natural languages, and so on. So if the data is biased, the outcome will also be biased. So AI has to be done with a careful thing. And this new thing which has been exploding, deep fakes using AI, is something which we have to guard against.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks very much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.
A platform for the